Hey, so we've got Georgina McGivern here, and I'm really pleased you agreed to come on, Georgina. And it's great that you're here. And I'd like to ask you a few questions about air pollution and clean air and the work you do. So maybe to start with, you could first, Georgina, tell us a little about yourself and also the work you do in the London Clean Air Initiative. So, Georgina, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Francis, and hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name's Georgina McGivern. I'm one of the co-founders of the London Clean Air Initiative. We're a not-for-profit. We're aiming to improve air quality across London, and our mission is to engage, educate, and empower London's communities to take action against air pollution. We were set up about 6.5 years ago in response to the first COVID lockdown. We were initially set up as the Camden Clean Air Initiative, as we are and were based in Camden, and we really wanted to make a difference locally, and that hasn't changed. But after a few years, we expanded to become the London Clean Air Initiative. So we're now working in around 10 boroughs, but still remain very community focused wherever we go. So we're kind of expanding out slowly to make sure that we can work very closely with the people that are living, working, or studying in those communities. So in terms of what we do, we do a lot of different things, and there's always kind of new projects starting and finishing. A core pillar of our work, though, is around education and increasing awareness of air pollution. So we've got quite a large schools program. We've worked with hundreds of schools over the years. We deliver assemblies and workshops and try to teach young people about air pollution and the steps that they can take to have a positive impact on the air quality, but also protect themselves from it. I won't go into too much detail because I know Hannah's going to tell you a little bit more about the work that we do in schools. But that kind of educational pillar is a really core part of our program. Another core pillar of our work is around increasing green space. So we do a lot of work to increase green space. Mostly that would be planting green walls, so sort of hedgerows and any type of barrier between a playground and a busy road, for example. But it could also be tree planting, shrubs, any kind of green intervention. Plants and trees, I probably don't have to tell many of you, but they're amazing. They capture pollutants, they capture carbon, they increase biodiversity, they provide shade and drainage. So there's climate resilience there as well. So a really kind of core pillar of our work is around greening London. And then finally, the sort of third pillar of our work is we deliver quite a lot of high impact projects. So this is where we might work with councils or universities and try to sort of bring about change at more of an infrastructural kind of high impact level. So that might range from research studies with UCL to retrofitting projects, air quality monitoring. We've installed parklets and a lot more. So there's a lot we do, and there's a lot of not mentioned as well, but it's really a combination of that kind of community program where we're on the ground educating and working with people to improve air quality alongside those higher impact projects that we might do more in partnership with larger organisations and councils.
Okay, so that sounds like you do a huge amount of work, and there are lots of things I'm sure we can collaborate with you on as we move forward. I mentioned that London's air pollution situation has improved over the years because of ULEZ and other things. And I mentioned that there's still, a huge number of deaths in London because of air pollution. Uh, how much of a problem do you think it still is, or are we on the slope to to sort of improving the problem?
Yeah, so you're right. Air pollution has been improving for I think at least 10 years now, and there are recent measures such as ULEZ and others that have had a significant impact. Recent studies, I think, have shown that the number of deaths linked to pollution have fallen. Scientists, you may have all seen there was an article just last week, I think, about children's lungs recovering. However, it is still a significant problem and one that absolutely still needs to be tackled. It still contributes to 4,000 deaths in London and Francis, you mentioned the UK as well. You mentioned the millions it costs NHS and the country. So it is still, significant. Breathing dirty air, living in polluted areas can harm the lungs, the heart, the brain. It can affect almost every organ in the body. It can lead to all sorts of nasty things like asthma, lung cancer, heart disease, stroke. And there's actually also been increased research recently around the impact that air pollution has on cognitive and mental health as well, linking it to things like dementia and Alzheimer's. So yes, London's air quality has improved over the years, but it is still a global public health issue, and there is still a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, the figures I mentioned uh, actually came from the Royal College of Physicians, where they said that air pollution affects, like you said, the whole body. So it's a serious problem, and we exceed the World Health Organization's recommendations about air pollution, and most countries do. But is that something that we should be aiming towards to get towards what the WHO thinks we should be at?
Yes, absolutely. So the way that it works is that there's national air quality limits that are set by the government, but boroughs can also choose to adhere to the World Health Organization air pollution guidelines, as you just said, Francis, and those WHO guidelines are much more stringent. So when boroughs or areas of London commit to the World Health Organization guidelines, that's a good sign. It means that they're trying to commit and actually go above and beyond what they are supposed to or have to do. It is also worth noting the difference between pollutants. So, there's different parts of London may have, or different areas may have higher levels of nitrogen dioxide, NO2, whereas others might be impacted more by particulate matter. And there's different legal levels for each of those specific pollutants. The World Health Organization, for example, actually says there is no safe level of particulate matter. That's how harmful they deem it to be. So NO2, for example, which is produced mostly by vehicle emissions and building emissions, and you've got PM 2.5 that is caused by construction and domestic wood burning, commercial cooking, road transport as well. There's different sources to each and different sort of guidelines and limits that are applied to each as well. So identifying the sources in those different areas is crucial to tackling it.
We may think we're improving, and as you say, there's still a lot to do, and we have to try and reach WHO recommendations. But there are new problems emerging, aren't there? We've had these heat waves recently. Next year, with El Nino, it's expected to be even a worse year in terms of heat and so on. And we're getting something we haven't seen in the way we have this year, wildfires. And that's increasing, isn't it? A new problem around air pollution because we've seen in Canada and the United States how big a problem that is. And it's going to be a problem here as well, isn't it? So we still have a battle to win on this, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wildfires obviously have devastating effects on humans and the environment, and I think it's been something that we've sort of seen in the news happening elsewhere, but we're actually beginning to experience it in the UK, which makes it much more real. I read ahead of this that researchers at the University of Edinburgh have been tracking wildfire smoke reaching Britain, and found that wildfires, including some that are thousands of miles away in other countries, accounted for about 10% of the UK's particle pollution at that time. So wildfires, both at home and overseas, is impacting the air quality right here, and therefore having a knock-on effect on people's health. And as I just mentioned, PM 2.5 is one of the most dangerous pollutants to human health. And wildfires are causing those PM 2.5 measurements to soar way above the guidelines. So yes, it's definitely a problem that we are sadly looking like we're going to experience a lot more of.
Some people sometimes don't understand the relationship, if there is one, and we think there is, between climate change and air pollution. What's your view on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because air pollution and climate change are different issues, But the link is that they're mainly caused by the same things, such as burning fossil fuels, transport, the power sector, industrial emissions, agriculture, residential heating, all of those different causes are causing both air pollution and climate change. So even though they're separate issues, they've got the same causes. But what that means is that they then also share many of the same solutions, which is a good thing because it means there's lots of things that can be done that will have a dual impact. It will both clean our air and protect our planet. So it's really vital that we tackle these challenges together. So that means swapping fossil fuel based powers for renewables, greening public transport, reducing industrial emissions, reducing emissions from agriculture. And we can see with the wildfire example that climate change can cause extreme weather as well. So longer summers, increased wildfires, the drought that we've seen, they all contribute to increased levels of ozone and particulate matter. So it's imperative that governments and large businesses and organisations embed tackling air pollution as part of their climate action plans, as this gives them the opportunity to improve health, deliver wider economic benefits, and support both people and planet at the same time. So I'd say that's the link, separate issues, but a lot of similar solutions that we can, work on and then have a co-benefits, a dual benefit.
Okay, so we talked about the problem, the issue that we have to face, but what about the solutions? Can you tell us something about the environmental measures that you in the Clean Air Initiative are trying to promote to help London's air become cleaner?
Yes, absolutely. And there is loads that can be done, which is the good thing. So I've already spoken about our educational program, which we really believe is the foundation of any project. We're believers that Londoners need to understand the sources of air pollution, have better access to hyperlocal air quality data, and then they can understand what they can actually do from a behavioural change point of view. So that is a really core part of our program. But alongside that educational program, I've mentioned our mission to increase green space as a really good example of something that has both environmental and air quality impact. I've mentioned already how trees and plants sequester carbon, they can provide barriers against pollution, provide drainage, shading, biodiversity. And they can also be used as a way to improve our streets. So, for example, and you may have seen these around London, by taking away car parking spaces and planting trees or installing parklets, we're increasing green space, decreasing vehicle emissions, putting priority back into sort of pedestrians and cyclists and local communities. So I think green space and increasing green space is a really nice example of some of the work that we do that has those dual benefits. But as well as this, I think any project that involves electrification will have a positive impact on both the environment, so in terms of climate change and air quality as well. So building emissions and commercial cooking contribute towards both pollution and carbon emissions. So we deliver projects that support businesses and schools convert to these better systems. We've got a project coming up with 3 schools in Westminster, where we're looking to support the retrofit of their kitchens from gas to electric. And again, that's going to have improve air quality for the children in the school. It's going to reduce carbon emissions and it will bring down their energy bills. Likewise, we recently completed a project with UCL where we monitored air quality across 14 hospitality businesses in London, and we provide educational resources to the business owners about the benefits of switching to electric and improving ventilation and filtration. So just some examples, but some of the kind of those higher impact projects that we're trying to deliver that can improve air quality, have an environmental impact, but also you've always got to look at, will it save people money? Is it accessible? How will people do that? And then I think that's where our community program really tries to play a part.
Okay, well, talking about your community program, I know that you're very much involved in that and you're involved in engaging communities. So what can local communities like our own and others do to make a difference?
Yeah, so I mean there is, as I said, there's loads. There's I think first of all, I've sort of already said it, but educating yourselves on local air quality. You can access that data, and I think find out, what are the levels, what are the sources, what's your council doing, and this way you can play a really active role in changing your behavior and protecting yourself, but also campaigning for change if that's needed. For example, we do a lot of work with data. You could have a look at pollution at your children's school or where you go to work, and then you could request a healthy school street or campaign for fewer vehicles outside. So it's having that access to data, I think, is a really good way for you as an individual to sort of play more of an active role and feel empowered to do something about pollution. But you can also use that to, protect yourself. If you're walking somewhere, you could use air quality data to try and find a cleaner, more greener route. So I'd say educate yourself is a really key part. I'd then obviously look at ways that you can reduce your impact on air quality. We all contribute to it in different ways. So assess how often you're using a car, when active travel or public transport could be possible. During colder months, a really key one is to avoid burning anything, so such as like wood burners or bonfires. We do see spikes of PM 2.5 and spikes in air pollution during the colder months due to fires. For a larger impact, if you had the means to do so, you could look at switching to cleaner energy at home, installing appliances such as heat pumps instead of gas boilers, or switching from your cooking appliances from gas to electric. But then even small things as well, so like avoiding using aerosols or cleaning products with harsh chemicals. So there's things that you can do to reduce your impact. And then finally, I would say there's a lot you can do as an individual to protect yourself from the impacts of air pollution, as obviously a lot of it isn't caused by you, so there's only so much you can do, but you can also look to protect yourself. So a really good example is if you're at home and you're on a gas hob and you're cooking, it's really important that you open the window, as that will lower the levels of nitrogen dioxide that will rise inside your kitchen. Likewise, if you wanted to, you could buy air purifiers to improve your indoor air quality. Or even if you don't want to invest in anything, just opening the window, increasing airflow, especially if you're hanging washing or cleaning or cooking or doing anything that's going to lead to a rise of or lead to poor indoor air quality. So I
Right.
think just to summarize that there's big and small things that we as residents and communities can do. But I think with a better understanding of pollution and its dangers, we can take the steps to improve it and all contribute and play a part in cleaning the environment and the air.